You can either feel that suck because you're not doing it and you're going to regret it. And nothing is more expensive than life of regrets. We've all heard that, but it's true. Take more chances because, again, the only thing that may suffer here is a little bit of your dignity and ego. And that's not real anyways. It's made up by your mind. Take more chances and do Delulu shit.
And welcome to Delusional, where we tell stories about big dreams. And this is your host, Michelle, and I'm here with Olenka Cullinan. Olenka, do you want to introduce yourself, please?
Yes. Hi, Michelle. My name is Olenka Cullinan, and I went from $400 in my bank account to selling my IP to Discovery Ad.
Amazing. And you've had multiple successful exits ever since and are now a business coach just like me and helping other people reach their delusional dreams. So where do we want to start? I want to start with this story. Okay, so you had $400 in your bank account. How did you end up in that situation? And then what did you do?
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great. Great story among many. And I absolutely love delusional, thinking and dreams. So I was freshly out of divorce. My daughter was 5 years old at the time. I really wanted to start a business because I was ready and I was raised by a mom who ran a company. So that's all I really knew. And I launched a company called Rising Tycoons. We actually worked with teens, taking their ideas, making them marketable. And the catalyst to the craziness about that company was the fact that I went, one of my friends at the time was really following closely with Darren Hardy, as if you know Darren Hardy, super high, successful overachiever, works with some of the best business builders, in the world. And he said, "Hey, I will pay for you to go to his masterclass live so you can experience that." And I was obviously completely taken aback, completely excited. And after that event was like, what can I do to catch his attention, right? You know how it is. You're in the room with 300 people. You don't really stand out. You're like a greedy business owner. I have $400 in my account at that time. So I thought I'm going to do the best delusional things possible. And I'm going to take a blank check and write a little sticky note. And I wrote, "Hey, Darren, I would love an hour of your time to pitch my business. And if it's not aligned, if it's not something that you would love to go for, if it's not aligned, you can write whatever number you want in the check." And I FedExed it. I FedExed it to his office. And so that was the catalyst of that, because he put me, obviously, he didn't give me a meeting. So everybody hold your expectations. But he did do, secretary reached out and said, he was completely appalled and impressed all at the same time. So they offered me to join a very high level mastermind. He did make a point to state that it was a $10,000 entry fee, which they gave it to me for free, which then led to me obviously becoming a catalyst. The business grew like crazy because of the room I was in, right? Rooms do matter. And now fast forward 4 years later, we took 10,000 kids, 1,500 educators through the program. I was happily pitching the business to another district in Las Vegas, Nevada, when someone approached me in the audience and said, "Hey, I work for Discovery Ad. We would love to have your program," because they had the STEM piece and we had them, marketing kind of business entrepreneurship piece. And to this day, I joke that, I thought I was being punked. I thought like there was no way this little piddly company in a tiny Phoenix, Arizona, by a girl who, this is not even my first language, I got flown into Discovery Ad, and in the process met the CEO of Discovery. We had conversations. They took me for Shark Week exhibits, and it was the craziest experience of my life. And so, I ended up selling IP, which then launched my now company. And it led to a couple more successful exits since.
I love this story, and I especially love the part about getting into the right room. This is a theme that's come up on the show several times there, and everybody that's on the show has done some really cool, crazy, delusional shit. And several people, one of the catalysts was they got in the right room. Sometimes it was Tony Robbins or or just whatever. But either what they heard fired them up so much, or they met the kind of people, or like you, they had an opportunity to come across the exact person at the exact time, or whatever it is. But I love that this is being a highlight on this show, because right now there's some backlash and, kind of in the coaching world against, oh, this is all bullshit. Like, you can't trust anybody. All these people are sleazy. And it's like, no. The people that are into this were into it for a reason, because these rooms really do matter. Can you talk more about that?
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, here's the deal. Yeah, absolutely. And then especially in the coaching world, right? You and I both know, especially I feel like since COVID, everybody has become a coach and
Yeah.
consultant. Like
Yeah.
I've lovingly called myself uncoached because of that. But absolutely, I believe that there's a level of audacity for anyone who wants to build anything big, right? And that audacity comes with taking a risk. And to me, I would say the human factor risk is probably the lowest, because really all you're facing by being in the rooms is rejection. So, yes, it could be a person who is, fronting themselves on social media. It could be a person who's not as good. But I mean, after you've been in business for a minute, you're pretty quick to decipher that. Obviously, you need to be smart and you don't sign paperwork or documents or go into any kind of legal agreements before you run through this thing. So, yeah, you do need to have a level of smart. But to me, those no's and the exposure. And what I can tell to everyone listening, I'm sure you'd agree with me, the coolest part about people in rooms like that, they 99% of the time either give you a yes or a yes, but, meaning they're going to refer you to someone else. They may
Yeah.
not, like in Darren's case, right? He never gave me the call, but he gave me an opportunity to be in the room with him in a different capacity. And I have since been in many rooms like that. So, when I was growing up and my mother was CEO of 37 years, her best advice to me, and I hope a lot of you listening take it up, is always go after the biggest person in the room.
I
Because
love that. I
and
love that.
she
And
had a part two. I just want to finish that. She said, because I would rather you be rejected by the best than accepted by mediocrity.
I'm already getting a personality picture of your mother, and I want to talk more about
Oh,
that.
yeah.
But she's
Yeah.
starting to come clear, in my mind. But
Yeah.
like the audacity, and by the way, I almost named this show The Audacity. That was the other name. I was between Delusional and
Great
The Audacity.
minds. Great minds. I love it.
Because that's what it is. And what I hear sometimes about approaching really big deal people, everybody's afraid to do it. They don't actually get approached as much because everybody's afraid to do it. It's kind of like the most beautiful women don't get approached as much as the women who maybe seem a little more approachable. It's that same idea, right?
Yeah. And I've heard it, honestly, I've heard it. My first mentor in the business was a lady who sold her company to a group of investors, literally started in her garage, sold it to investors for 84 million. And when she came to speak to this female group of business owners, I thought like there was going to be like literally a stampede run into the stage to talk to her. And I was shocked that there were like 3 women who went up to the stage, and I was looking around. I'm like, what am I missing? Like, what just happened? So when I went up to her, I did the same another delusional approach. I said, hey, I know I can probably afford you a coach an hour, but would you be willing to let me take you to breakfast, lunch, or dinner, your treat, my treat place of your choice? And same thing. She's like, oh my gosh, no one ever asks me, right? Like no
Yeah.
one, because people almost put them. And I love that you mentioned that people almost put them on such pedestal that it literally like creates this like barrier, and no one treats them like human anymore.
And your mother raised you with this audacity, with this confidence, and she was an entrepreneur too, you mentioned. Can you tell us her story a little bit?
Yeah, she definitely was a crazy entrepreneur. I grew up in a very dichotomous family. My dad was a government official, which was all by the book and everything by the rules. And then I had my mom who started her company. She basically started the company in the lab of the same company. She was a winemaker, and she was working in the lab and worked herself all the way to the CEO and ended up running the company for 37 years. And the craziest part is like, my whole life, I watched her go out on the limb, right? Like she always said, play by your own rules. That was another rule. She had like a set of rules she passed along. So when I was 15 years old, she literally bought me a postcard with a woman jumping like through the puddles, and it said, always play by your own rules. I still have it.
Oh,
And, she definitely had this audacity about her, and this like thought process that no is literally the least of your worry. She's like, with everything that's going around in business, it could, like, you could lose money, you could lose people, losing a little bit of your dignity or ego when someone says no is really so minuscule on the grand scheme of things. And I think that literally changed my perspective on both like fear because of what she built. I mean, she started the company with 87 people and left it with 317 after 37 years.
amazing. I love no is the least of your problems, by the way. So whenever I teach sales, this is one of the main themes, and I say no is my second favorite answer because if you're in a sales position, which all entrepreneurs are to some extent, or if you're just working in sales for somebody else, you've got a pipeline of prospective people, and there are the maybe people, and the maybe, and the let me think about it, and the maybe later, and those people take up so much time, space, bandwidth. It's like just tell me no if you mean no. And I try to be gracious to people that are selling me stuff. If it's a no, I don't say, oh, let me think about, like, I don't waste their time. I just say, look, I've been in sales 20 years. I'm just going to give you the no so you can move on. Right. No is actually such a blessing because it just cuts that mental load out. Right.
Yeah, and I'm with you. I do love sales for that exact reason. To me, it's like what's there, right? What's a block beneath a block, and how do we get there? But I also do love knowing. I watched. I don't know how many listeners have ever heard of Ryan Serhant, owning Manhattan, the real
Yeah.
estate
He's got the
agent.
show at the,
Yeah, I do love a show,
yeah.
but I do love. I watched his interview once, and he said, I want you to know that unless you tell me a no, I'll be following up with you indefinitely. And that was such a wake up call. He's like, that's how I build. It's indefinite. Like I'm following up with you till death unless
Yeah.
you tell me a no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully not how he dates, but good that he's that way a bit. I love him, by the way. He cameoed in the Sex and the City show. What's the and just like that? Yeah. He had a whole little
Mhm.
part at the end there.
Yeah.
Fascinating guy. And this is a theme we see not only in the people that we've interviewed for the show, but like anybody that I observe and model that's gotten to some kind of delusional success is they were relentless about it.
Mhm.
And you do get a lot of doors slammed in your face. Like you've heard lots of no's. I've heard lots of no's.
Yeah.
And you just keep going, right?
Yeah. And to me, I love that you brought up this point. I always say, like, the relentless piece or consistency is really what wins. You don't have to be the most talented. I'm certainly not. You don't have to know everything because I certainly don't, right? The beautiful thing about business, it's like, if you look and take all the emotions aside, and I'm sure you talk to your clients about this all the time too, right? I tell my clients all the time, like, if you take the emotions aside, you are basically doing a game of numbers, and it's just consistency and you showing up, and no matter how many no's it is, how many, like, you can't, because you can only lose in business if you literally stop doing things, right? The minute you stop making action is when you lost, you gave up. Other than that, you have like unlimited freedom. You have door slamming, you can pivot 1,000 times, you can bring people, leave people, change yourself, reinvent yourself. So that's one thing that I've always been fascinated. But I think, to your point with relentlessness, there's so many people that attach to that certain outcome that they quit before it gets really good because they're more concerned about like the look, the feel, the outcome. There's a meaning behind it. And I'm sure you see it in sales, especially when people are like attaching, meaning behind all these numbers. And I'm like, it's just process. You just stay relentless, like you said.
Well, that's when we get into the deep mindset stuff, and I'm a woo-woo coach, and I get all the way
Same.
into trauma stuff, release work, etc. We have to go, okay, what's it pulling on? Because if it's pulling on your fear of rejection, your I'm not good enough wound, whatever, if we release that wound, then you'll be able to just come back and be like, oh, that wasn't about me, that was about them.
Absolutely. Yes.
You know?
Right. Works. I say it works all across your life. If you get really good at business, your dating life usually improves.
That's right. That's right. Because in order to get really good at business, you have to be able to face yourself and deal with your shit and release stuff at the root and like come up with a different perspective, a better perspective. And yeah, once you do that, it's like I found I'm a better parent, I'm a better
Yes.
friend. Like I'm just better all the way because you have to work on yourself or this doesn't work.
Yeah, I always say, growing a business and building a business is the biggest spiritual awakening you've ever been through because it's really, really, it's literally like the biggest journey of self love and accepting yourself to the core with all your insecurities and all your issues. And it's exactly to all the points that you just brought up, right? Like you have to. Everybody wants to go outward, right? What's the next tool, the next AI, the next fix I got? But in reality, everything starts within. And I know people talk about it ad nauseum. And, I get people, they're rolling their eyes like, not again. And I'm like, you are the problem. It's like
Yeah.
Taylor Swift song. Hi, it's me. I'm the problem. It's me.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's literally
Yeah.
that.
Well,
Yeah,
and when you hear something repeated over and over and over, you can roll your eyes or you can say, maybe the universe is trying to tell me something. Maybe there's a reason that I'm getting this same message over and over and over. Maybe I need to
yeah,
hear it, right?
for sure, for sure. Yeah.
So when you talk about, and I don't know exactly how many years ago, when was that time that you had $400? Like what year was that?
So, well, it was right after my divorce, which would be 2017. So 7 years ago.
Okay,
Just believe
7 years ago. Oh, cool. So you've
it.
been doing this pretty quick. Even in 2017, I would have told somebody, look, you don't need a lot to start a business, but maybe you need a few $1,000s, maybe you need a website, maybe you need this, that. Now you really don't need anything. Like social media is free. You know what I mean? The AI tools, you can have some pretty kick-ass AI for $20 a month at this point. It's kind of amazing, especially even in just like the last year, what you can do with very little money. And so now the barrier to entry is not financial as much as it is mental, right? And like I know you're on social media. I am just now, I'm so behind on this. I'm just now like focused on growing my social media following because I've been doing this for about 10 years and I've been operating in a very specific niche, which is political consulting, where I'm known and it's a small world and you don't really have to be all over social media to do that. You just go to the conferences and word of mouth and whatever. And now that I'm really actually focused on my social media following, I'm like, man, this is intimidating and I'm really having to fall back on my own mindset work to be able to show up consistently. Right now I'm in a TikTok thing where I'm trying to post 3 to 5 times a day on TikTok. Man, when I first started doing that, I was like, what am I going to say? My makeup's not on, the light's not right. Now I'm just like, I'm in bed in my pajamas like, hey, good morning everybody. But you have to get past that feeling of, they call it climbing cringe mountain on TikTok. That feeling of, oh, people are going to judge me. They're going to roll my eyes. Oh, here's Michelle again. Oh, she's all over my social media. Who does she think she is? Kind of
Yes,
stuff. And
yes,
you just
yes.
have to do it. Can you tell us about that? How'd you get past that?
Honestly, yes. And here's the thing, I want to give you a little bit of context here. It's going to help a lot of you. So, when I was 9 years old, I got attacked by a German Shepherd, jumped me on the back, and I stuttered. So, I basically had to go, I was bullied relentlessly in middle school, had to go through all the classes. So, the reason I speak really fast is one of this was kind of like a coping mechanism that my brain developed to get over stutters, so I don't have it anymore and I can slow down myself intentionally, but like my go-to is pretty fast speaking. So now I have an accent, right? I was born in Eastern Europe, so I mean, now add all these things together and now when you go on social media, there is a million and one things. I think what saved me, and again, it's 100% my mom and the audacity level that she had. She traveled all over Europe, didn't speak a lick of English, could say hi, bye, and always kind of worked with the biggest deals and made everything happen, right? So I always looked at her, I thought, gosh, how do you do it with such grace, right? And then especially she put me in tutoring. So I started speaking English when I was 7. But still, right, when you go, so I tell people this, and I love that you brought up the cringe mountain. So what changed, I think, especially in this last couple of years, especially since COVID, is the barrier to entry decreased significantly because, like you said, you can have a few $100, you have teenagers running a super successful business, and then visibility increased so much. So I'm telling you right now, and that's why I love the fact that you are doing it. Like, if you are not willing to put yourself out there and basically get through all of your insecurities and the stage of your full self-acceptance, whatever you're building, whether it's your personal brand or your business or whatever you want to do with that, you're not going to be successful in the next 5 to 10 years, because the visibility is going to get even more increasingly so, because this kid's like my daughter, I watch her do face calls, she's 15 years old, and I'm like, God, you look like you just rolled out of ditch and you don't care, right? Like, they all call each other and it's like sideways and under the bed, like they're so attached. For them, social media is just another screen. It's like a life screen. It's not even an attachment in a device. It's just an angle in life, right? So they don't care about makeup or hair or dress code or whatever. And so you are now competing with this generation that was basically born into online presence. For me, I had to, just like you, remind myself that it's okay. Nobody cares. And after a while, I was like, well, if you don't deserve, if you don't love me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best.
That's right.
It's like, that's it. We're building it. So yeah, I very much relate to you, but I think there's no choice for people anymore, at least.
No, your personal brand, your visibility is so important, which is why I got dragged kicking and screaming I was like, you know what? I'm a little older. I feel a little cringy about this, and I feel like I'm doing this 10 years too late, but no time like the best time was 10 years ago and the second best time is now. So like, let's do it. And what I love about the algorithms is it's going to bury anything that you do that's bad anyway. Like if it's bad, nobody's going to see it
Right.
because no one's going to click on it. And then if it's good, people are going to see it. Now, sometimes what you think is good and what the algorithm thinks is good or what other people think is good is it's something totally different. But it's helpful because if I just do one in my pajamas, just rolled out of bed, and it starts to blow up and people like it, that just reinforces for me like, oh, I don't have to look perfect for people to like and respond to this. In fact, they really appreciate the authenticity of that. And that's freeing for the next time, right?
1000%. And I love that you brought up authenticity because I've been talking so much about it lately. Like, I can tell you that I truly believe that authenticity now trumps everything. People, yes, absolutely. Everyone loves beautiful aesthetics and all the tricks and all the things. And I do stuff with like my marketing team where we do all the cool stuff. But I can tell you, people also love the behind the scenes. They love the real you. Anytime, like, I have a decent sized following between all three platforms. Like, I'm well over 20,000 now. And I can tell you, number one request, whenever I post it and say, hey, what else do you guys want to know? They're like, show us your life, show us your behind the scenes, show us what you do when you're not working, show us non-business, Olenka, right? And so, yeah, I think that piece is very endearing. Plus, it also removes barriers because people are not scared, right? They look at Michelle and they're like, oh my God, Michelle's a coach. She has all this, years of consulting that she was so niched and you're so well versed. So if you always show up from that angle, it becomes very scary for a lot of people who are starting and maybe want to follow you in your footsteps or learn from you. They're like, well, I can never be that. Right. Like I tell people all the time, the reason you're not signing clients, a lot of times I see that, especially with women, because we're obviously more prone, the hair, the makeup, all the things. But a lot of times it becomes a barrier because once people put you on a pedestal, they don't buy from you. They're like, whoa, she's like that unattainable star, North Star, and it's going to take me 10 years to even get there versus when you rolled out in your pajamas, they're like, if Michelle can do that on a given day in her pajamas, right? So yeah, I think there's also like this closeness that it creates with your clients as well.
Yeah, there's so much permission that you're giving
Mm-hmm.
when you're authentic. You're giving other people permission to be themselves. And I remind myself of that when I feel intimidated. I mean, really on a macro level, that's what this entire show is about, is breaking down how people did these incredible things that they did. Because if you just look at the results, it's like, oh my God, this 8-figure business or going to Mars or whatever it is, it's like, that's completely inconceivable for most people. But then we sit here and we talk about like exactly step by step, how did that happen? And it's very relatable. And the differences are right, like these inflection points. Yeah, I talked to that person everybody else was scared to talk to. I kept going when everybody else said no. My parents told me not to do it and I did it anyway, right? Like there's some kind of themes that come up, but they're like little things that then put you on a completely different trajectory.
Right. And that's also like right to the detriment of social media, I feel like, because sometimes women look at my profile now and they're like, well, I could never talk like this. I could never be on stage like this. And I'm like, scroll down. Like,
Yeah.
I invite you to
Scroll
scroll
down.
down backwards a few years. And I honestly do that on purpose. Like I occasionally will repost my stuff from way, way earlier, right? Like you look at my first speeches, I used to stutter. Like I literally keep a video. I have a VHS tape at my house of my first speaking contest in college when I did win it, but the amount of stuttering and blinking was like astounding. And so when I tell people like, yes, none of it, yes, I know social media portrays everything like as a speedy train. It's microwave society now, but the reality of small steps that is so like underappreciated. And that's why I love that you talk about audacious shit and basically all the Delulu stuff, because real Delulu is daily small things that nobody else, like that is the Delulu. The Delulu is when I'm not watching you and you and I are not on podcast and we are both in front of our laptops and it's like 11 o'clock at night and we're like, you put all of this effort, or like you said, you're doing a video, you're creating something and you post it and it's like 3 likes and it's your mom and your neighbor Susie. And then I'm like, oh my God, I thought this was going to hit, right? Like, so there is so much everyday Delulu that people don't really appreciate that in reality creates that big vision. Yeah.
Well, absolutely. And, when I first started coaching like 10 years ago, I was into hustle culture and I was very like what they would now call like bro marketing kind of stuff. But I was just like, if you don't feel like it, do it anyway, like suck it up. And then I got a little deeper into the mindset coaching world and a little bit deeper into the trauma world. And it's like, no, no. First of all, don't do that. That's very unhealthy.
I'm not burned out and resentful.
Yeah, you're going to create health problems. You're going to create marital problems, everything else if you just push it down. Because if you push it down, it's going to come back up at some point and probably not when you want it to, right? Or in the way that you want it to. But what we do now instead is how can I shift my reality into a place where I actually want to do this?
Yeah.
So if that's, if I wake up and I'm feeling shitty, and I've talked about this multiple times on the show, I love my bed. I love my bed. And I just get into gratitude for my bed. Somebody asked me the other day, what is your number one favorite place in the world? And I think they were expecting me to say like Fiji or something. And I was like, my bed. And they just started laughing. I was like, no, it's my bed. When I wake up in gratitude, then I can shift into, oh, I get to do this. I get to play on social media today. Now, Olenka, I am very proudly now a paid content creator. I have made $25 this month.
Oh, Michelle, let's go. I love it.
Wow, I'm a professional. And I'm like, I wake up and I'm like, I get paid to exist.
I love it. Yes, I know. But I mean, I love that you say that because that's a beauty, right? Like, and yeah, we all went through the bro stage and I think all of us got pushed into this, like, do it. I'm like, I haven't met one woman who wakes up at 4 a.m., cold plunges, run 10 miles. Then she's drinking coffee, journaling for 5 hours and taking care of the kids. I'm like, that's just, yeah, I haven't met one happy woman who is doing
no
this.
I'm like, that's the kind of thing you do when you have a wife that takes care of all your kids so that you can let's just call it what it is. Let's just
right, exactly,
call it out.
right.
Yeah.
We haven't advanced yet where we put our kids in the closet and say, hey, stay there until mommy is going to do her morning routine.
Mommy's doing your cold plunge, shut up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I do love the fact that, yes, it's like, it's the little again, right? Like bringing it back to now. It's here and now. If you're not happy here and now, whatever your now is, I know that now may be nothing like what I wanted yet, but if you don't ground yourself, right? If you don't go into this, what is happy here and now? Yes, of course, we can all be happy in Fiji. We're all going with Michelle, but if you can be happy in your bed, and like you said, you get to, right? Like, I love that expression. I use that all the time. I remind my clients, especially like with women I work with, I'm like, hey, you get to do this, right? So there's so many women who never get to be in front of their kids because they have never worked a day from home and they're running across town and rush hour traffic and then recording themselves on a parking lot, and trying to doing content creation. So if you have ability to still live the present life, as I call it, right, where you're present for people you love and for yourself, you definitely are lucky. And I hope people understand that because that to me is such a privilege. Like, I joke, and I live in Phoenix, Arizona, you guys. So we have 120-degree summers. So whenever women complain to me about their business, my line is always, hey, you know what's hard? Digging trenches at 120 degrees right now. That's hard. You sitting in front of camera and being scared because your makeup is not the right way or your hair is not laying down perfectly today. That is not hard. That is mental, but that is not hard.
Yeah. And and it's like, if you go back, I love the fact that you said scroll down, scroll down. If you look at some of the first videos that I ever did for social, it was like, they took me like an hour to edit because I was doing multiple takes of every line. And then I was taking the best take in editing. It's like, that makes me kind of cringe now. Cause now it's like a 30-second, if you're going to put 5 things up a day, you can't spend an hour editing all 5. Obviously I have other things to do besides just social media.
Exactly. Yes.
It
almost forces you, like you said. I love the fact that you brought authenticity. Like, it forces you to be authentic because you don't have time to micro analyze yourself over every video and every word that comes out of your mouth.
Yeah. Absolutely. Okay, so you're not only a delusional person who has done delusional things, but also you coach some delusional people. And do they start out delusional, or do you coach them into their delusional mindset?
Well, my clients are 90% women, so I generally I'm going to advocate for this. Maybe it's my personal opinion, but I'm going to advocate for the fact I do think women definitely naturally have a little more delusion in them sometimes because it's just, the culture and upbringing and how stretched we all are between playing all the roles of mom and partner and female and, friends and all the things. So I'd say I'm probably 60-40. I'd say probably 60 people who have like an inkling of delusion and they're like, could I really go there? Could I really like attempt into that? And then 40% are probably people who are coming in and they're already pretty delusional. They may miss some, like some of them give up because they're like, well, I've done like 3 delusional things and, and they haven't worked to my liking. So screw this. Maybe I need like everything basic and I need to go to like all the stuff. And I'm like, no, 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 no. 3 is not a number of any kind. By the way, if any of you who are listening have ever judged yourself on under 10 anything, you haven't tried. Okay. So
Yeah,
it's like, I'm sure you would agree, Michelle, between both of
absolutely.
us, we're probably a few thousands.
Yeah.
Yeah. A few thousands is where we really look at numbers.
Well, and I think it's that to me, delusional is that mindset that we have to hold of like, I see the vision. It doesn't matter if anybody else does, because often what we're up against is a lot of well-meaning family and friends who love to keep us safe, who are saying, oh, maybe don't do that, or the partner and I've coached. I'm sure you have too. I've coached many people who had a spouse who was like, could you just get a real job? And like, this isn't working. You're not bringing enough money. And it's like they're not seeing the big picture, long term. Like, I do not get into the middle of people's marriages. I really try hard not to, but it's like, man, the difference between an entrepreneur with a supportive spouse that's like, I know you can do it, honey. If we have to sacrifice for a couple of years, I'm on board with you. And somebody that's like, can you please just get a job? It's almost night and day. And it's very, very hard for people to succeed when they've got that, negativity in their ear. Delusion is sometimes about saying, I know you don't see it, and that's okay. I see it. I need you to trust me. I need you to get on board with this. We're doing this, whether or not it makes sense to you or not.
Yeah. And I love that you shared that because I always, my take on it is I always say delusion is limitless. So as long as you don't allow other people to put limits on you, and I mean, obviously we're talking in a safety sense or whatever, right? Obviously there is a limit to everything. But what I mean by that, it's that mindset. It's exactly to the points you were speaking, because unfortunately it's usually our closest people. And I will share a personal story. My mother, who I love dearly, when I got married, I actually was like, you know what, screw entrepreneurship, don't want to do it anymore. I was fed up with it, have been doing it since 14. I'm going to go teach. Not that I didn't love teaching because it's right aligned with coaching, right? I went and taught University of Arizona here, and then I moved to high school and the community college level. But what I discovered is that I did that for 4 years. I was like, whoa, no, this is definitely like, I love it, but I hate it because it's so constricted. And I love teaching piece, but I didn't love all of the admin and all the paperwork. And so when I quit, my mother didn't talk to me for 6 months. The very woman who raised
Mm,
me to be entrepreneur to the core has also gotten so used to this safety net, like this illusional safety net that she thought I created. And especially because I just had gone for divorce. My daughter was 5 years old. I literally had like $400 in my account. So when I called her, I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm going to quit. And it's actually a very funny delusional story. I sat down with my best friend and I like literally I quit, sat down with my best friend to celebrate and started bawling during that lunch saying, oh my gosh, I made a mistake. And she said, how about this? How about this? She said, I'm going to hold you a teaching certificate for the state of Arizona in my safe. And if you in a year or two say, oh my gosh, I hate this. What a stupid decision. I will personally give it to you. You can go get a teaching job like tomorrow or next week and we'll be good. And she's like, how does that sound? And I remember like sobbing into my cocktail going like, okay, yeah, it sounds good. And so obviously my mom devastated me because you guys, I mean, I'm going against someone who has been my role model for years. This is the only upbringing I knew. This is a woman who was the most delusional woman alive, but yet she still somehow liked that sense of safety. I think mainly because of my daughter.
mhm.
So it took everything. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it took everything in me to say the boundary of it's okay. I love you anyways, but I'm gonna do it. And my biggest tape, like, they say revenge is best served cold. It wasn't necessarily a revenge, but I definitely felt it because I was able to buy her an apartment and,
I love
do
it.
pretty incredible things for her, but that definitely was a moment for me in my life where I was like, wow, imagine if I went with her versus going against her, which was probably to date, I can tell you for sure, one of the hardest decisions I've ever made.
Mm. And that is the best kind of revenge. I love that positive revenge. You know what? I'm going to buy you an apartment because you were wrong.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. And you know, I experienced something similar. My mom listens to the podcast, so hi mom if you're listening. My mother is the most badass woman, and she was a teacher for her entire career, raised me by herself, managed to get me, and a teacher in Oklahoma, so that's not a lot of money, right? But managed to get me everything I needed, make sure that I was well educated, had all the piano lessons, had all the braces, had all the, you know, knew my manners, like everything that I needed so that I could launch and do something better. And you know, that I was always raised with this, like, every generation does better. And we literally had this picture of our ancestors in a dirt dugout on the wall, and my mom would point to it and be like, they lived in the dirt so that I could do that. She was the first person in the family to go to college to become a teacher, and she did that by going into the army, and so the army paid for college. And you know, she just, yeah, she, amazing, amazing. And I'm watching her do this her whole life, and also raising me to, like, oh, you know, you need to learn how to fix the toilet and change the oil and change a tire because you don't need to be dependent on a man, and never be financially dependent on a man. This was hammered into me. Fast
Yeah.
forward, I go to grad school, I meet my husband, I get married, we're doing well financially together. The marriage doesn't work out, and I'm getting divorced. And my mom is the one going, don't get divorced. What are you going to do for money? I'm like, who are you? Like, what are you, like, this is the lady that
Same.
my whole life I watched as like a feminist, you know, icon. And she's going like, are you sure you're going to be, but you know, as a parent, and you're a parent, I'm a parent, but as a parent, you're going, oh my God, be like me in these ways, but don't be like me in these ways. Like, don't screw up in the ways that I did. Right.
Right, for sure. I love it. I love your mom already. I mean, that's exactly like this was exactly my divorce and me going against everything. She's like, what? Like, this doesn't make any sense. Like, you are so safe. Everything is so great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I completely relate. But I also do feel that, you know, and that's kind of like, yes, for anyone who's a parent, we always walk that fine line, right? Because on one hand, we want to be the revolutionaries, right? And if we're out there and doing all the things, but on the other hand, we're always watching ourselves going, whoa, like, how would I, you know? And I thought about it with my daughter a few times, you know, how would I react, right? Like, if she did some kind of crazy out there Delulu stuff, like, I want to be supportive, but I'm sure there's going to be notes in me, even though you and I, like we've talked about it, we both have, you know, enough internal thinking and enough process, and but I'm sure there's still going to be like a note that it's going to hit where I still would be worrying about it too. So, yeah.
Well, I go back to core values, right? And I'm big on values. I'm into NLP, neuro linguistic programming, for those of you who don't know what it is. And we use values as a marker a lot for the work that we do in NLP. And when I think about my values for my children, right, what am I trying to instill in them? And it's like kindness, you know, independence, right? And I go back to those things. And so when I'm on the fence about how do I want to address this issue or answer this question or whatever, it's okay, well, remember what I want. And what I'm not trying to raise kids to be rich or, you know, successful on paper. They will be, they're very smart kids,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to raise them to be kind. That's what I care about. And like, I don't want a kid that's a millionaire or billionaire, but like horrible to everybody and doesn't care about other people. Like, I would not consider that successfully raising a child, right?
100%. Yeah. And it's right back, like, yeah. And that value, right, I'm sure is exactly how you do business because I see that all the time. I see it with people. I'm like, there is a level of trust that some people created business that others don't, right? Like, and it's that level of trust because for somebody like you, your values are trust with your clients, people who come back to you after years, who still keep sharing their wins and their major moments, and they refer people to you, right? So to me, this values literally become the core of everything you do. And you can either be that fly by night business owner, you know, the next big trend, and then you're constantly in that sales and speaking on sales, right? They're constantly in that selling mode because they're always on trend. Or you stick with your values and you really sit deep in them, and that's who you become, and that's how people recognize you. And I can tell you, like, I'm questioning this, but I'm also kind of certain that you are seeing this, that I absolutely every delusional person I've met at that high level of delusion is that ladder. They're the ones who are in their values. They're the ones who are driving with their core. They're the ones who want a legacy, not just like a next big trend on TikTok, basically.
Well, I think it's necessary in order to experience true happiness, peace, and fulfillment, right? Which
Yeah.
is if you get into why do people even want to make a lot of money in the first place? It's, well, I want to feel secure, I want to feel happy, I want to feel fulfilled. But there are so many ways to make lots of money by compromising your values. And I've certainly passed up many opportunities where I could have made a lot more money if I wanted to compromise my values. And I see that obviously working in politics, we see that all the time. Oh, how do I want to, this person wants me to put out this piece about this thing with this message, and I'm going to make a lot of money if I do it. Should I do it or not? Even if it's against everything I believe in, and any business owner, we come up against these trade-offs. But if you build a business based on, I call it building a business based on your baggage. If you build a business that's not aligned with you,
Yeah.
you can do it, and a lot of money will come into the business, and you will hate it, and you will be trapped in a prison of your own creation. And that's when we get into the situation where somebody's like, oh my God, I have this successful business. I have 50 people working here, 100 people working here. I hate it. And the only way for me to get out of this is to like lay off 100 people. Like, we don't want you in that situation.
No. And that's, that misalignment. I have seen it through and through with people as well. It's like you said, yes, can you, because, it's interesting. And I want to jump back for a second. When we talked about resilience and consistency, there are so many people that sometimes literally misconstrue those because they feel like it's okay. It's back to that, boss era and bro era. It's like it's okay to just hit myself on the wall, and if I just keep showing up and hit my head on the wall and suck it up and put my feelings away and pretend that values don't matter. Yeah, there are a lot of people who build businesses like that, and it absolutely, to your point, does work. But every person like that I met is really exhausted and resentful and unhappy, and they're struggling constantly, and they find themselves like, I can't tell you, and I'm going to share this here publicly, I cannot tell you how many successful rooms I went in probably, like, especially the last 3 years, for people where I expect like 8, 9 figure earners, where I expect them to be on cloud nine, and how depressed, exhausted, and resentful they are. And it's astounding to me. But it's because I feel like we had a whole generation raised by this bro era where you just, suck everything up and do cold plunges to destroy the real alignment. And that's insane because it catches up with you, like you said. Yeah.
It catches up with you. I mean, this is also the same mentality where people were sharing revenue numbers without ever sharing profit numbers or ever, I made $1 million a month. Yeah, but you spent $1.5 million a month in ads. Or it's like,
once you're showing me taxes and profits, I don't care. I don't care. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You want to be brave? Put your tax slips online. Let me see your Instagram with your profits.
That's right. That's right. That's right. But it's this like, oh, we can't ever talk about, oh, I had a slow year. I had a slow year, by the way, this year. I've had, business-wise, I've had a slow year. Now, I'm proud of myself in lots of other ways. I've lost 56 pounds as of today. Like, I've been focused on some other stuff this year. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm celebrating.
No, that's huge. Like, if people don't understand what a commitment that is, I am so in awe. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. I had a little bit of help from modern medicine, and but it's also it is something I'm proud of. It is something that required my focus and my attention. And I didn't set the world on fire business wise this year. When people ask me, "Hey, how's business going?" or "How was business this year?" and I say, "Oh, it's been a slow year," I get this look like, "What? Like, you're not supposed to say that. Like, you're never supposed to say that. You're always supposed to be like, it's great, it's amazing." And that's the kind of pressure on entrepreneurs that I hate, because that's the kind of thing where we start to see these very serious mental health outcomes. The suicide rate among entrepreneurs is insane, and nobody talks about that. Where does that come from? It comes from this pressure that I always have to be doing amazing, and every year has to be a record year for revenues and profits. And that's not reality. If you do this for a long time, like I've been in this business for 10 years, I've had record years, and I've had years like this year where it was like, well, that kind of sucked, and like, let's do better next year.
Absolutely. But yes, to your point, that pressure, and a lot of times we ourselves create that pressure. Like, I tell all my clients. I'm like, unfollow, block, walk away. Anytime you're catching yourself in comparison mode, anytime you're in that Instagrammable moments moment, it's
Yeah.
not realistic. And I'm with you. I've had some record years. This year is pretty steady for me, but same, like you can sustain 100%, especially as a woman. Like if you're a woman listening, like this is your permission. Michelle and I are giving you all permission today. You don't need to be in that perfection like mode of always being at 100%. Some days we're happy to get out of the bed and get out of our pajamas. Like that's a win. There are days when I'm like, running and I'm a single mom with my daughter and there's million and one things and I'm taking calls in the parking lot. And I mean, I'm pretty balanced. I teach optimization for a living. So your girl knows how to optimize. Like I'm obsessively productive, but I still have days like that. So you will never hear me say, and I like make it a point to share, with my audience all the time, because I think that partially we are like at fault here because so many people who have created a level of success never share their losses. We all share our wins. So I've made it a point, especially I would say in the last 3 years, to really share. Like just a couple of days ago, just for funsies, we were sending emails to 7,500 people, and UVA that we just brought on board forgot to type in that ad, first name friend. So they just typed it. So 7,000 people received an email from me that said, "Hi, friend / beauty," no name. But it's funny because, speaking to the clients you attract, like people who understand this. I had one of the ladies that have been in my kind of like surrounding. She was a client, then kind of exited, but she's always in my bubble. Literally send it back to me. So she's like, "Hey, Olenka, I think your AI meant to put my first name here. Just wanted you to see. Cool message, Bill." Right? Like, so these are my people. Like these are the people I want to have in my surrounding because I don't want them to bash me. I don't want them to lose it. I don't want them to block me. Like, you want to position yourself, and I love, like, kudos to you for being able to speak like that, because I do think that a lot of coaches made it such a poor representation that everybody has to be at 100% at all times, and that's just crazy.
No, we have to be gentle with ourselves. And like you said, especially as women, it's like, okay, perimenopause, that's a part-time job. Getting a kid into college, that's a part-time job, right? If you're a single mother, my God, the fact that you're doing any work at all in a given day, especially if you're able to work out and take care of yourself and get dinner on the table. I mean, when I think about myself, sometimes I'm like, I'm incredible.
You are. And that's like, but that's the thing, like, that's the message. And I don't think we have enough of, right? Like, it's not the 100% that I'm always killing it in business and I'm always put together and my hair is perfect and my makeup is on. It's that. It's the fact that you're doing 7 different things on a given day. And if you have a kid, they interrupted you 77. Like I always joke with moms, I say, average brain, and that's psychology fact, it's not me, takes 7 minutes to reset. On average, every kid interrupts you every 5 minutes. So you never really operate 100% brain capacity.
Yeah.
And so yeah, you are amazing.
Thank you. And you are amazing. And everybody listening, you are amazing. And I want to know, Olenka, for people that are listening, they have a big dream. They have a little spark of a delusional idea, but they're scared to take that leap. What would you say to them?
I would say it's going to suck anyways, right? Like you choose your heart, you choose your suck. You can either feel that suck because you're not doing it and you're going to regret it. And nothing is more expensive than life of regrets. We've all heard that, but it's true. And I can share, I'll plug in a little bit more of my personal story. When I first moved to the US and I was in college, my very first job was taking care of this gentleman, few of them. It was like a private home group for hospice care by the time they were going to the last stages of their life. And I can tell you that not one of those people was concerned about the money they make, the businesses they created, the fame that they had. Every single one of them concerned that they didn't spend more time and didn't take more chances, right? Like that more chances line, I can tell you it could have been a t-shirt that everybody got for Christmas. And so that to me would be your invitation, like take more chances, because again, the only thing that may suffer here is a little bit of your dignity and ego, and that's not real anyways. It's made up by your mind.
Yeah.
So yeah, take more chances and do Delulu shit.
Climb that cringe mountain if you need to.
Yeah.
Olenka Cullinan, thank you so much for being on this show. Tell us where we can find you online if people want to follow along with you or learn more about your work. Where can they go?
Yeah, absolutely. Just use my name, Olenka Cullinan. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn. It will not be a bot. It'll be me replying to you. And if you want to learn more about my work, it's very easy. My company is called iStartFirst because I do indeed always start first. So iStartFirst.com.
I love it. Thank you so much for being on the show. And if you want to follow along with us, we're at the Delusional Pod on every platform. And I personally am at Michelle to Scale. And I also do not have such a big following that I don't answer every email myself. So those comments are me, those DMs are me. Find me, help me grow my fledgling platforms. Like, share, comment, review, and go support Olenka. She's doing amazing work. So thank you guys so much for listening. And we will talk to you next time. Bye.
Thank you.